Hello friends, this is Ankit Kanodia from SmartSync Services, a SEBI registered investment advisory firm based out of Ahmedabad. We have started a new initiative wherein we will discuss key financial concepts and try to explain it in a very simple manner for the understanding of new investors. Today we'll start with ROE, return on equity. As per Warren Buffett, return on equity is probably the single most important metric to understand how a business is performing. So let's start with the presentation. In this presentation, we'll start with an introduction of ROE. We'll then look at the DuPont framework. What are the ROE levers? We'll then have an example. We'll also understand a few criticism of ROE, a case study on how excess cash can uh, hide the real ROE, impact of M&A on ROE, and then finally conclusion. Return on equity. I have a simple formula which you can see on your screen. Net income by shareholders' equity. Simply put, ROE is a measure of profitability that calculates how many rupees of profit a company generates with each rupee of shareholders' equity. Let me just give you a very simple example. And please keep this example in your mind because throughout this presentation, we'll use this example multiple times. I start my business with 100 rupees. That means 100 is my equity investment in my business. At the end of the year, after doing my business generates 10 rupees of profit after taking all the expenses. That means my net income would be 10 rupees and the investment amount is 100 rupees. So the ROE in simple terms would be 10 divided by 100, that is 10%. Now let's move to the DuPont framework of ROE. In the DuPont framework, there are three different metrics which are explained, and that is what leads to the value of ROE. Those are net profit margin, asset turnover, and financial leverage. As you can see, return on equity is equals to net profit margin into total asset turnover into financial leverage. Let's take all the three one by one. What is net profit margin? Net profit margin is basically net profit divided by sales into 100. Again, coming back to the previous example, by investing 100 rupees, if you made sales of 50 rupees and earned profit of 10 rupees, your profit margin would be 10 divided by 50, that means 20%. Asset turnover. Asset turnover basically says, as you can see in the formula, it's net sales divided by average total assets. To understand the whole concept, let's look at the example which we referred earlier. So we know now that the sales which we have done with our 100 rupees investment in the first year is 50 rupees, right? And then if you basically invest, say for example, 50 rupees in all the assets which are required in your business. So your asset turnover ratio would be 50 by 50, that is one time, right? So just to rephrase or revise the whole thing, net profit margin 20, 10 divided by 50, that means 20%. Asset turnover means sales by total assets, that means 50 by 50, that is 1. And now financial leverage. What is financial leverage? It is equity multiplier, or how much assets you have been able to create based on the equity you have invested. So we already know now the total assets which we have is 50 rupees and the total money which we have invested is 100 rupees. So the equity multiplier over here or the financial leverage over here is 0.5 or 1 by 2, right? So now if we go back to the earlier example, return on equity is net profit margin, which we calculated is 20%, total asset turnover, which is 1, financial leverage, which is 1 by 2. So ROE will be 20 into 1 into 1 by 2. That means 10%. So while doing this, we are again getting the same answer which we got when we simply did net income by equity, which means 10 rupees divided by 100. What is the reason for bifurcating everything? By bifurcating the whole ROE and drilling down to the levers like net profit margin, total asset turnover, and financial leverage, we get more insights into which lever is basically acting more or contributing more to the value of the ROE. So over here in this example, this is of course a hypothetical example, but we can see that asset turnover is only 1. Financial leverage is actually very less, which is even less than 1.5. So what is contributing most in the value of ROE? That is net profit margin, because your margin are really high, that is 20%, right? So let's move on now. We have just taken a very simple example just to understand how ROE is calculated for uh, a few companies. So we have taken Asian Paints and Berger Paints. You can see the data. We have taken all the PAT, uh, net worth, closing net worth, average net worth, sales, total assets, net margins, and we have calculated the three levers which we have discussed earlier. That is net margins, asset turnover, and financial leverage. And as you can see, both in case of Asian Paints and Berger Paints, majorly they are stable companies with stable margins and less debt on books, or almost zero debt on books. So that is why you will see a consistent stable ROE. So ROE in the range of 27 to 22% is really commendable. Very few businesses have these kind of strong ROE. Just to understand how this ROE is very important or very healthy is, today if you take loan from bank, say if you don't have money, if you take loan from bank to start your business, and your bank charges, if you don't have a good credit history, you are a newcomer, you might be charged say 14% or 15%. Good corporates with a long track record, they might be charged a little lower rate, somewhere around 10 to 12%. But if your business is earning somewhere around 27 to 22% ROE, that means you will be able to pay back the loan very easily, right? So what do we understand or what do we learn from this ROE case study? Paint industry has stable demand. Both companies have stable ratios, and stable ratios means stable ROEs. You will see that higher net profit margin of Asian Paints contribute to higher ROE compared to Berger Paints. And similarly, we can calculate for other industries and other companies, right? Now let's move on to uh, some circumstances where ROE may be misleading, wherein the actual ROE might not be the one which we see. So let's take three circumstances. Number one is when there is high debt on books. Number two, when there is excess cash on balance sheet. Number three is when there is an M&A. So what does high debt leads to? If you remember our earlier example, wherein we showed you that by investing 100 rupees of my own money, I earned 10 rupees at the end of the year. So that means there was zero debt. The only money which I invested was my own money. That was 100 rupees. Now in the same example, just for a second, think that I invested 20 rupees of my own money, and borrowed 80 rupees from a bank or say some friend of mine. Now that 80 rupees has an interest of 6%. Since I borrowed that from a friend of mine, he was ready to give it to me at a very lower rate of interest, which is 6%. Okay, that means now if we go back to the earlier earlier formula, the equity over here changes from 100 to 20, right? Everything else remains the same. So even if you see the same formula, return on equity is net income by equity, right? So what will change? The net income will change. How? Net income earlier was 10 rupees. Now we will have to deduct the interest which I will be paying to my friend because of loan I have taken from him. So loan, how much loan have I taken? 80 rupees. Interest on that would be 6% of 80, that means 4.8, right? So for simplicity purpose, we are assuming it to be 5 rupees. So now our net income, which was earlier 10 rupees, is now deducted, now reduced to 5 rupees. 5, and the equity we already have discussed is now not 100 but 20. So 5 divided by 20 is how much? 5 divided by 20 is 1 by 4, that means 25%. In our earlier example, it was 10%. In the current example, it is 25%. How did the ROE go up? Only by taking more debt, right? Now, just for a second, in the example of debt, if we calculate interest not at the rate of 6%, but at the rate of say 12%, you will see the amount of interest which we'll have to pay will sharply rise from 4.8 rupees to 9.6 rupees, right? Right? So what will happen? Out of 10 rupees of net income, we will deduct 9.6 rupees, that means 0.4 rupees will only be the profit after tax and interest, right? 0.4 out of 20 will reduce our ROE. So now coming back to the point where high debt leading to high financial leverage can be advantageous when interest rates are low, where your unlevered ROE or ROE when you were not having debt on books was higher than the rate of interest which you are paying for debt. In that case, your ROE can even get increased. But if company gets into the debt mode, it will not be able to pay back it on time, or even if it pays the debt on time, it will not be able to sustain the same ROE because the debt, if the interest rate on debt will keep on increasing. In such kind of companies, a better metric to look at is not ROE but ROIC, which is return on invested capital. Return on invested capital is calculated as net operating profit after tax by total invested capital. In the net operating profit after tax, you don't take the interest payout. You don't take, you only take the operating profits. Basically, whatever you only deduct the operating expenses from the sales. And the total invested capital means you add both equity and debt and then look at the return on invested capital. As we discussed, the second thing to note is when there is excess cash on balance sheet, then what happens? We have taken a very simple example over here. Say there is a 100 rupees, 100 crore balance sheet. You can see fixed asset 40 crore, current asset 60 crore. On the liability side, equity 40, other liability 60 crore. So total liability is 100 crore. So balance sheet tallies, asset side 100, liability side 100. PAT for the year is given 10 crore. Now prima facie ROE is PAT by equity, that is 10 by 40, so 25%. But if we are told that in the current asset it is found that cash in hand includes 10 crore of excess cash, then ideally this is a cash which is not required in the business. So you should mentally take that cash out of the books. How do you do that? You reduce 10 crores from current asset side. So you can't actually do that. So you will prepare a pro forma balance sheet. Okay. Your actual balance sheet will remain the same, but for your calculation purpose, you'll prepare a pro forma balance sheet wherein you will reduce current asset by 10 rupees, 10 crores, and you will reduce the equity also by 10 crore. So your new current asset will become 50 crore and your new equity value will become 30 crores, and your balance sheet side will reduce from 100 crore to 90 crore. So the new balance sheet will look something like this, right? Now you calculate the ROE. The PAT remains the same, which is 10, but now the equity has reduced from 40 to 30. So your ROE increases to 33%. Don't you think this is a better way of calculating ROE when there is excess cash, right? So what do we learn from this? Whenever we have companies which have a very stable business model, stable demands of products and services, and produces a lot of cash, in those companies, it is very important to know, is there any excess cash lying in the books? If yes, let's take out that cash and then look at their earnings, right? Let's take Infosys for example. What you can see? You can see large negative amounts under cash from financing activities, which represents large amount of cash Infosys managed to return to its shareholders in the form of dividends and buybacks. Just look at the numbers: 20,000 crores, 14,000 crores, right? And how does it manage to do that? Because it is earning very high cash from operation. You can look at the cash flow from operation, which is increasing and stable, right? Now, hypothetically speaking, if we find that the cash which is sitting on the books of Infosys over here is 19,568 crores. If they don't have any M&A plan for the next foreseeable future, don't you think this cash is just idle? They don't require it for their business, because their business is already throwing large amount of cash, right? They are anyways going to just distribute this cash for dividend and buybacks, right? So now, what do we do to understand the real ROE of Infosys? See, I've taken two charts over here. In the first chart, you have calculated ROE based on the reported numbers. The reported equity is 65,000 crores, PAT is 15,000 crores. So ROE becomes 23-24%, right? Now, when we just take out that extra cash from the books, you will see that equity reduces by the same amount, and also your ROE increases, right? Why ROE increases? PAT remains the same, but because the denominator is now decreased from 65,000 crore to 45,000 crore, ROE automatically goes up. So I hope you got this thing very clear. Whenever there is a business which is producing a lot of cash on its book, it is important to ask how much of that cash is sitting idle, how much of the cash can be taken out of the business without affecting the long term stability of the business, right? There is no one way or clear way or any formula to do that. That is based on some assumptions. The assumption which we have taken for Infosys is not entirely true. We have taken a hypothetical example wherein they will not do any acquisition. So that is how we have arrived at it. But obviously, uh, companies have their own way of allocating capital, right? Now, what happens in case of M&A? So the best way to judge a company's performance while it is undergoing M&A activities is to calculate ROE in two ways. In one way, the ROE will exclude or maybe subtract the goodwill amount from the equity, and the second way would be ROE including the goodwill. Now, if the company for which we are calculating the ROE is assumed to be putting more focus on organic growth than inorganic growth, then operating ROE, which is ROE without the goodwill, that means goodwill is subtracted from the uh, equity, that is a better measure of performance, because you will not find uh, goodwill appearing on the books all the time, or you will not find that company doing acquisition very frequently. So it doesn't make sense to uh, calculate ROE including that goodwill. It is better to judge the operating performance of the company. So goodwill should not be a part of that ROE. But when a company which keeps on acquiring more and more companies, or inorganic growth is the DNA of that company, and that in case of that company, it is very important to calculate ROE including the goodwill, wherein your goodwill should not be deducted from the equity, right? So this brings us to the end of our first session of explaining key financial concepts. Today we discussed about ROE. Let me just summarize. Take into account the three levers of ROE and then judge how each lever is contributing to the value of the ROE. If you remember in our first hypothetical example, profit margin was contributing the most because you were getting a high profit margin that led to a high ROE. Second, presence of high leverage, excess cash on balance sheet, or involvement of M&A activities may not reveal the true ROE. We have to do suitable adjustments to be very sure about how to calculate the real ROE. And finally, the most important part, ROE is undoubtedly the most effective measure of a company's performance. With this, we end our presentation. Until we meet again, thank you so much for listening to us.